Hello, and welcome back to the Hot Action Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kerr, and this is week 17 of the NFL regular season. We are going to be, as usual, gambling on the NFL. We're going to review what happened last week, and I would like to take a moment to apologize for the late upload. The holidays disrupted my schedule, my upload schedule. I had to do a little traveling to spend time with my family. So, you know, we can't let that get in the way of a good gamble, though. I did manage to watch a good portion of the NFL schedule over the Christmas break. There were games coming hot and fast, and we're gonna go over those games. Then we're gonna go over our predictions for Week 17. This week is the penultimate week of the NFL regular season. So it is crunch time for anyone who's been picking all these games. All right, so let's go over what happened last week. So out the gates, we took the Rams over New Orleans. The Rams are at home. They took care of biz. They beat New Orleans by 8, 30-22. A simple cover. You like to rack up a few of those. Then, unfortunately, we took Cincinnati over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh absolutely smoked them. That's 11-34. Taking Cincy was a mistake there. Then we took the Chargers plus 11.5. We thought that line was too big. And wouldn't you know it, the Chargers hung around with the Bills for the whole game, and the Bills would manage to sneak out a victory. 11.5 was way too many points. The thesis was correct. And this was a tough gambling game. We took Seattle minus 2.5, and they looked like losing it throughout most of the game, but they managed to get their poop in a group before the end of the game. 20-17, bang. That's a win for you, boy. We had Indianapolis at Atlanta. Took Indy. It was wrong. Atlanta finally pulled their shit together for the first time this year, as far as I remember. They get above 28 points. Taylor Heineke is a better QB than Desmond Ridder. I think that's clear. I would be very surprised if we see Desmond Ridder play for the Atlanta Falcons again, or in the short term be an NFL starting quarterback. I don't like to say that type of thing about people, but yeah, I just don't think he's doing a good enough job to get a starting job again in the near future. So, I said last week that we had Flacco Mania. We picked the Browns. The Browns smoke Houston. It was the right pick. Getting points, they win 36-22. That's 2 touchdowns plus the spread. No problem. We're moving on. We had Green Bay at Carolina. Green Bay was covering almost all day, but their defense would go soft at the wrong moment, and they would only win by 3 in the end. I think they would win in overtime, if I recall correctly. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, either way, they only won by 3, and the spread was 4.5. Bad beat, I would say. It's tough when you get the games right, but the result still goes against you. Then we take the Jets plus 3.5. All right, so we take Washington Commanders plus 3.5 at the Jets. The Jets try to throw this game away through the whole, Washington comes out early, starts beating them. It looks like the Jets have no chance, but the Jets slowly put together an offensive performance and end up winning 30-28. In unlikely fashion. Then we take Detroit minus 3.5. They win by 6 on the road in Minnesota, 30-24, and that's a dub. Now you might be noticing a lot of green. We went 10-6 this week, so that's my best week in a long time. It's not crazy impressive, but we'll take it. Then we take Tampa Bay minus a half point at home. They smoke Jacksonville 12-30. Not a lot to be said here. I'm not sure Trevor Lawrence is right. I think he's out this week, in fact. So that's something to monitor going forward. Jacksonville might end up a 500 team this year if things go wrong. Pretty impressive stuff. Then we took Chicago minus 4.5 at home. They would cover that fairly comfortably over Arizona. We'll take that dub. And then we took Miami minus 1.5 points, which we win by a half point. Incredibly thin cover, but they won the game. They just kept kicking field goals. Whenever there was an option to, they would just kick another field goal. It was pretty fun to watch. It was a kicking masterclass. Then we had one of my favorite games of the weekend. New England at Denver. I think Denver got caught looking past New England. New England did everything they could to lose, other than lose. They just kept hanging around in the game. Their kicker had missed a field goal and an extra point, but at the very end of the game, when they got the ball back tied, marched down the field, they set up I believe a 54-yard field goal, and the dude hits it. Improbable as it might be, he hits it, they win the game, and they send Russell Wilson packing. It seems like he's been benched. It seems like he's going to be cut. What a crazy turn of events this week. They were just talking about playoffs last week. They get eliminated, and now it might be time for a new era in Denver. As a Seahawks fan, this is pretty hilarious stuff. And then we have the Monday games. We had a whole bunch of gifts on Christmas Day. The presents around the tree. We had Las Vegas at Kansas City. I took Kansas City minus 10.5. Couldn't have been more wrong. Kansas City, when you apply the spread, only scored 3.5 points. And they just couldn't move the ball. It was really crazy. They sputtered about as hard as you possibly could. I believe Vegas didn't even get a completion in the final 3 quarters of the game and still managed to win. It was really a strange game to watch. And on Christmas Day, I think everyone was distracted. It was weird because everyone was distracted and Vegas was away, so they were nowhere near the Sphere. So I don't know how to think about these results exactly, but I'm gonna go ahead and just chalk that one up in the weird category. I believe in Kansas City more than losing outright to Vegas and scoring 2 touchdowns and losing to Aiden O'Connell. I don't know what to think. Then we took Philadelphia minus 11.5, and they were kind of in and out of covering for most of the day. It's a lot of points, but eventually the Giants would whittle that lead down to 8. Fairly large lead in terms of the dynamics of a football game, but it wouldn't be enough to cover. It's a loss, even though we win by 8, but that's the dangers of that massive spread. Then we had my favorite game of the weekend, the crown jewel, the gift of Christmas. We had Baltimore at San Francisco. I took the extra points, but we wouldn't need them. Baltimore got the job done. They turned a team that appeared to be a juggernaut on its way to the Super Bowl into a bunch of crying, sniveling children. The angel Brock Purdy had his wings clipped, and he was brought back to the ground. I don't know how to describe how much pleasure watching this game gave me, but suffice to say it was tremendous. I think that might have been a Super Bowl preview. I can't be sure. Obviously, there's a long way to go when it comes to getting to the Super Bowl, but it felt really good to see someone finally kind of beat San Francisco convincingly, and not really leave San Francisco any excuses, because they had no answers for what Baltimore was doing on either side of the ball. It was great. That's everything regarding last week, and now we're going to move on to week 17. And unfortunately, because of the release schedule, all my picks are already in, so you can see them. But I will explain them. All right, so we have I mentioned this. If you're a real hardo of this channel, you saw my YouTube short. I said we're on the Jets, lock it in. That was a mistake. I should have stayed with my Flacco mania. Flacco absolutely diced the Jets. They did not show up to play. Flacco he's Super Bowl hungry. I think, I said just a moment ago that the Super Bowl preview was the Ravens and the 49ers. Well, this might be a year where the real Super Bowl is the AFC conference game, and it's going to be the Browns and the Ravens for all AFC North grudge match battle. Flacco versus Lamar, the old versus the new. It's so crazy that this is happening. It's so funny that this is how the Deshaun Watson contract is turning out. He's being wildly outplayed by a guy that everyone thought was washed, who came off his couch to play quarterback for the Browns on a team that had lost most of its star power on offense. I should have stuck to my guns. I should have stayed on these guys. I just thought 6.5 points was a lot for a team that doesn't appear to have a lot of offensive firepower. But I got proven wrong by Flacco. But moving forward, we have Saturday game tomorrow. We've got Detroit and Dallas. Dallas is at home, and so far this year they've been very good at home. That being said, you're getting 5.5 points with Detroit, and indoors, Detroit is as dangerous as anybody. As long as the temperature doesn't get too low, my guy Jared Goff's small hands don't come into play. He can grip the ball when it's a reasonable temperature. If I was Jerry, I'd leave the AC on super high tonight. Leave it on. Make it feel like a fridge in there. Because that's the only way they're covering that 5.5 point spread. We're picking Detroit. Moving on, we got Sunday morning. We got Vegas at Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is going to be trying to, make the playoffs here. There's an outside chance they could steal the division from the Jags. I'm taking Indy at home -2.5, especially after Vegas just won their Super Bowl with the weirdest win I've ever seen. Then we have Atlanta at Chicago. Atlanta finally put together a offensive performance that you can be proud of. Chicago is just, playing for vibes at this point in time. They cannot make the playoffs, I don't believe. We are taking Atlanta +2.5 on the road. We got Carolina at Jacksonville. I don't believe Trevor Lawrence is playing. We're taking the points. I might be crazy, but this Jacksonville team, people can throw on them. Kind of the only redeeming factor is they got Trevor Lawrence, and I don't think that's true this week, so we are taking the points. And then we got New Orleans at Tampa Bay. This is a divisional rivalry match. I think whoever wins this game, I think they, if Tampa wins this game, they sign their ticket to the playoffs. I think Tampa's taking it home. They're going to get the job done. They're not going to lose at home to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans has been all over the place this year. Their records are very similar, very middling. But I feel like this Baker Mayfield swag is going to get the job done. It's not a very large spread, so basically we're just predicting the winner. We're taking Tampa Bay at home over New Orleans. Then we got Arizona at Philadelphia, Battle of the Birds. This is going to be a big spread. Philly's had trouble covering these big spreads lately, but this Cardinals team is, but we are taking the Eagles to win. This has got to be a get-right game for the Eagles. They need to prove that they are tough down the stretch. They're not going to really have a lot of opportunities to prove it, though, because most of the teams they're playing down the stretch are just dog water. So at least Philadelphia can put together a few convincing victories, hopefully, as they edge towards the playoffs. Another large spread that I think will be covered is San Francisco minus 13.5 at Washington. I think Washington is moving on from Sam Howell. I can't be sure, but I think that's what I heard. Should be interesting, something to watch. And with this large spread, the game should be interesting. Could be fun to just take the points and see what happens. Like, San Francisco, you really have to hope they, like, find it in them to, like, absolutely kick Washington's ass if you like that side of the bet. So, who knows? I'm taking San Francisco. I feel they need to, get back in their right headspace after getting their absolute bottom spanked on Christmas. God, that was good. All right, sorry, distracted. We have the Rams at the Giants. The Rams are on a warpath. We're taking the Rams. The Giants are trash. They benched Tommy DeVito. I can't stand this. How can you do this to me? You're going to put in Tyrod Taylor in the year of our Lord 2023 when you have Tommy DeVito on your roster, healthy, ready to play. Everyone in the Giants organization should be fired. I don't say these types of things lightly. But everyone in the Giants organization should be fired. It's crazy that they won Coach of the Year last year. And they're going to be 5-10. Or they could finish the year 5-12. No one would be surprised if that happened. Coach of the Year. Benching Tommy DeVito. Unbelievable. All right, sorry. Now moving on to New England and Buffalo. I think Buffalo's had trouble covering big spreads lately. They are kind of all over the place. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But that being said, I feel like New England's kind of got some swag about them right now. They're trying to fuck up their draft position. I know, well-coached teams often do this, sadly. They'll be terrible all year, and then they'll realize, oh, we could win a few games down the stretch and, draft a considerably worse player. And as a, long-term NFL coach, I want the wins. Foolish, but I understand if you would do that to us, Belichick. And it might just be that the Patriots have a dignified end of the season, not getting blown out by the Bills. But it is Bills away. It's a tough matchup for New England. They are less talented basically everywhere. I just think that Buffalo's kind of a head case team. They'll probably throw an interception or two. Or something like that. Keep it close. That's what they did against the Chargers. And I think the Chargers are worse than New England, despite what the records might say. Then we got Tennessee at Houston. I think Tennessee's kind of packed it in. We're taking Houston minus 3.5. I don't exactly like Houston anymore. Actually, I'm going to switch this. I'm switching it. We're taking Tennessee plus 3.5 because I think that the Tennessee weapons will get the job done. Oh, look, that was crazy. I just switched in the middle of my analysis. Houston doesn't have their starting quarterback. They're kind of thin at all the skill positions. Tennessee's got a couple RBs that move the ball. A couple of their wide receivers are doing stuff. Yeah, we're going to take a gamble, take the points, keep going. Now we got Miami at Baltimore. I think Miami at home managed to squeak out a win against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are significantly weaker than Baltimore. I think Baltimore is going to be, a hostile environment for Miami, to say the least. and Baltimore is much more physical than Miami. I feel like the only way for Miami to really win this matchup is to take a lead and just never take your foot off the gas. But that's going to be incredibly difficult to do against Baltimore. I'm taking the home team minus 3.5. Now we have the matchup that I'm the most nervous about. We have Pittsburgh at Seattle. I'm taking Seattle minus 3.5, but I'm going to explain to you why I hate to do this. So Seattle has had a major issue playing against backup quarterbacks. As a Seattle fan, many of you will know that if you see the backup quarterback is in for the opposing team, most fan bases would get excited. Seattle fan base, dread. We lose to backup quarterbacks all the time, and Mason Rudolph came in and did something that Pittsburgh generally hasn't done a lot this year, which is, throw multiple touchdown passes and win. So I'm a bit afraid that we watched Kenny Pickett stink it up all year, and now Christmas miracle Mason Rudolph has showed up, and he's making me a bit nervous. Also, the other issue is that Mike Tomlin rarely finishes with a losing record. So ultimately, if he were to win one more game this year, he would have a winning record on the year, and Seattle might be the team to give it to him. And we just are such a scary team when we are in these high leverage spots. And if we were to win this game and our final game against Arizona, I believe Seattle has quite a good chance of making the playoffs, in the 90+% range. But that's exactly where we're going to blow it. Oh, I'm so beat down. I am so beat down by this team. I'm so nervous. Sunday can't come fast enough. Then we have that's all my analysis on that. Then we have the later afternoon games. We have Cincinnati at Kansas City. I'm taking the points. Kansas City have looked quite wrong over the past few weeks. There's something strange going on. I don't want to say anything misogynist about some sort of Taylor Swift curse that's not real. There's no way Taylor Swift showing up has completely cursed the most dominant NFL franchise of the decade. There's no way that's possible. There's no way her terrible luck with males and love and dating has carried over to the NFL, and her bad luck with these types of things is cursing the Kansas City Chiefs. That's impossible. There's no way that's true. That being said, I think Cincinnati, has been moving the ball around. I think they'll keep it within 7.5. I think Kansas City will win, but the margin will be low. At least I hope Kansas City win for their sake. And then we've got this unusual bet for me. I'm taking the Chargers plus 5.5 at Denver. I feel like Denver, with this whole Russ debacle, now they're out of the playoffs, and divisional matchup, you just take the points, especially when the points are above 3.5, 4 points. These divisional matchups are usually pretty tight, and when you give up on your starting quarterback after you've paid a tremendous a king's ransom, I can't imagine that's good for the locker room for the rest of the year. So we're taking Chargers plus 5.5. And here's a line that confused me greatly. We have Minnesota minus 1.5 at home against Green Bay. I don't understand why Minnesota would be favored at all. I took Green Bay plus 1.5 points. Seemed weird to me that I could get points betting on the team that I feel like is better. They have their starting quarterback. Seems like enough reason to take them to me. Deep analysis, of course, but seems odd. Not sure why that was available, but I'm taking it. We're hitting submit. And then our favorite bets of the week. I have them written down. Just a moment. So we are taking Green Bay, LA Rams, Tampa Bay, Detroit and Baltimore. Those are my favorite bets of the week. And let's see here. My lock of the week is that Philadelphia will at least get a win over the Arizona Cardinals. That's it for me for the week. I hope everyone had a happy holidays, and I hope you all have a great new year, and that next year's gambling can be even better than this year's gambling. I hope that for everyone and myself as well. And with that, we're going to sign out. See you next week. This has been the Hot Action Podcast. Peace.